Hi, I'm Steve, and we're going to do some yoga. So find your mat. You might find a blanket or a towel would work, or even a pillow, something like that, just to make sure your knees are comfortable. There are going to be a couple of positions we'll do that a little extra padding might be helpful. So with that, I'm going to go to my mat and we'll get started. So we're starting seated. So any seated position will do, and if cross-legged is not your thing, you can certainly sit back on your heels with your knees bent. I have a blanket underneath me. Some people need a little bit more elevation in order to be comfortable in this position. We want to be able to be upright and be at ease, both of those at the same time. So one of the primary principles of yoga is to have stability, but also have softness. So as you settle into your seat, feel your sitting bones pressing into the floor or whatever you're sitting on. Let your hands rest on the inner knees or inner thighs. Close your eyes. And relax into your space. Make it yours. Even with eyes closed, feel your surroundings. Notice the space that is in front of you, and back to the sides, and even the space that is above. Find the fact of your breath. And just notice, without manipulating anything, what breath you brought with you to practice today. In the tradition of yoga, we use the breath as sort of the centerpiece of any practice. And so I would invite you now to begin to deepen both your inhale and exhale. Take a few rounds of breath to find a full, even, expressive breath that doesn't exceed your limits. It causes no strain. If the audible breath, called ujjayi, or some people say ocean breath, if that's part of your practice, please engage the soft contraction and the swallowing muscles of your throat, narrowing that opening just a little bit to further regulate and refine your breath. Each time you exhale, can you feel a little more centered, a little more grounded? Each time you inhale, can you invite the openness, the space, the possibility into each in-breath? Now, let your breath relax completely. Return to whatever for you is a normal breath right now. And just take a moment to notice. Notice how you feel physically, energetically, mentally, or emotionally. Just notice where you are in this moment. And no, you don't have to be anything in particular. You're invited to this practice to just have an experience. As one of the great Buddhist teachers says, start with where you are. Open your eyes softly. We're going to start in table pose. So, if you find yourself on hands and knees, patting your kneecaps if you need to provide additional comfort for knees that have a tendency to scream, as some people's do. Widen your fingers on the mat as well as your thumbs, and even Take the fingers and rotate them out just slightly, maybe so the middle and index fingers are pointed just a little bit outward. And then press firmly through the palms of your hand, especially the heels, as if you're energetically trying to press your chest away from the floor. Let your knees fall underneath your sitting bones and the tops of your feet be trailing more or less behind the knees. We'll start with a real simple move called cat-cow. You might be familiar with it. It starts with an inhale where the belly lowers, the collarbones lift and spread, the chin rises. And then as you exhale, round the low back, draw in and up through the belly as the chin falls, descending toward the chest. We're going to do this 3 or 4 rounds. Find your breath. Begin to connect it to the simple movement of cat-cow. We'll progressively begin to expand our range of motion, our movement. So with the next inhale, as the belly drops, the chest rises. Lift your chin just a little bit higher if you can. And then with the exhale, as you round the low back, release your hips to your heels, forearms to the floor. And maybe forehead to or near the mat. As you inhale, come forward. We'll set up for cow pose once again. Flowing back into a modified version of child's pose. We call this Chakravakasana. 3 or 4 more rounds. Keep your breath connected to your movement in tune with your breath. The next time your hips reach back to your heels, stay there for just a moment. Rest in place. And we'll continue to sort of expand our repertoire here. With your next inhale, would you lift your fingertips, lift your chest, come all the way up to stand on your knees. Palms can face each other. As you exhale, swing the arms back behind you as you lower your hips to your heels, your chest to your thighs. Tuck your chin. We'll do that a couple of times. Swing the arms up and forward. Let the fingertips lead the movement. And then turn your palms out as you exhale. Swim your arms back, lowering down, stretching the back of the neck, relaxing onto your thighs. 3 more rounds. Maybe a little back bend at the top of the inhale as we come into full forward fold on the exhale. One more round, all the way up. But this time, release your hands to your sides on the exhale. Stay standing on your knees. Relax into your knees, into the tops of your feet. Close your eyes just a moment. And once again, just a quick check to but to figure out where your breath is relative to your body and your energy is relative to your practice. All right, return your hands to the floor and then come all the way down onto elbows. So the forearms should be parallel more or less like railroad tracks, palms flat on the floor, fingertips wide. And then you can walk your hands forward your elbows forward of your shoulders just a little bit. This is puppy pose. We send the hips back and down, release the chest toward the floor. The forehead onto the mat if it gets there. If not, wherever you can find it. Close enough. Now breathe into your back body. If this is intense for you, you can come out of the pose momentarily, take a breath, and then fall back in slowly with an exhale. A lot of the work we're going to do today is not just but directed toward walkers, runners, bicyclists, swimmers, people who have some repetitive activity in their lifestyle. Good. Then lift the head gently. Walk your hands back underneath your shoulders and bring your left hand to the center of the mat so it comes right underneath the chin more or less. We're going to take the right fingertips out to the side, lift them up into the air, and find a length from palm to fingertips. And then on an exhale, swing the arm underneath. It's called threading the needle. We'll lower the right shoulder toward the mat. Let the hips sink back. Let your head be relaxed, so we don't want to feel any strain in the neck. Take a couple of breaths here. And then maybe you want to take your left hand and swing it back behind you, looking for your right waist. Some people like this version. But there should be no strain in the neck. It shouldn't feel like anything is overstretching. Take 2 more breaths like this. Yeah, and then take your left hand, press it into the floor, slowly come up. Find your table pose again, and just settle in for a breath. And then we'll do the other side. So, sending your right hand to the middle of the mat, right underneath the chin more or less. Take the left fingertips, swing them up into the sky. And then on an exhale, swing the arm underneath, reach for the opposite wall. Slowly lower the shoulder down onto the mat. Again, watching for any signs of strain in the neck. You can stay in this position being supported with the right hand, or lift the arm up, reach it behind. See if you can find the left waist. Take some breaths. Return your hand to the mat. Press up again. Take your time. Coming back to table pose, and just hang out here for a moment to sort of let all the energy settle. Put some force through the arms so you're pressing into the heels of your hands. Good. We're going to stay here. In fact, no, we're not going to stay here. I'm going to change my mind. Go ahead and curl your toes under. And then sit your hips back toward your heels, walking your hands back toward your knees. For some people, they love this. I'm not one of them. This is a really big stretch for me. So I'm not going to make you stay here long. And if you don't like this at all, you can just unfold the feet, set the tops of the feet on the floor. That's fine too. And then while we're here, make fists with both hands. Take the first set of knuckles and just send them down the fronts of the thighs. So this is like a little massage. Sometimes it's a nice relief. A lot of people are very tight through the tops of the thighs, the quadricep muscles. And you can even go to the outsides from the base of the hips along the outside of the thighs. Good. And then place your hands back on the floor. Uncurl your toes if they were curled, set the tops of the feet on the floor. Now sit back again. If this is hard on your knees, a blanket or even some kind of a pillow that can go behind the knees can sometimes relieve some of that tension that's created in the kneecaps. So sitting on the knees, take your hands to your sides, rest on your fingertips. Now start to walk back. Take your time doing this. The idea here, there are 2 ways to do this. The way that is not preferred is where you get a big arch in your low back. So what we're really trying to do is simply to hinge from the hips as we come back. You may be able to get your palms to the floor. And there are a lot of people, I'm not among them, who can come all the way down onto elbows. Come on back until you find some kind of a stretch in the tops of the thighs. The knees should still be reaching toward the floor. Spend a couple of breaths. You can let your chin relax toward your chest, or some people prefer to have their head leaning back. People usually like one way or the other, so take your pick. All right, start to walk your hands forward again. And then as you come forward, widen the knees, bring the big toes together. Let the elbows settle down between the knees. Come into a child's pose. Spend some breaths here. You might notice what this child's pose brings you today. Whether you feel any stretch in your low back, your glutes, maybe even through the upper back, shoulders. Whether you feel excessive squeezing or pinching behind the knees, whatever comes to it. All right, come on back up. We're coming back to table pose, my friends, and this time, finally, to downward facing dog. So curl your toes under, raise your hips to the sky, let your heels sink back, and take a couple of breaths. Walk out your down dog. All right, with an inhale, would you let your knees bend and look up? And then as you exhale, take a couple of steps to come to the front of the mat. Forward fold. Uttanasana. Feet about hip distance apart. You can take hands, grab opposite elbows, let your head hang off the end of your neck. A little sway from side to side might be nice. This is ragdoll. And then release fingertips toward the floor. Let's take hands to shins. Inhale, lift halfway up. Feel the length coming into your spine. Exhale and lower down. Ground through your feet. One more time. Inhale, halfway lift. Infuse the spine with life by lengthening it forward. Exhale and lower. Then swing the arms around and up into the air. We'll come all the way up, meeting hands and dragging them into the heart center called Tadasana, mountain pose. Brief check-in, close your eyes, notice your energy. Maybe you can sense some shift in energetic sensation on a physical, mental, emotional level. Maybe you're just where you were when we started. Doesn't matter. Let's do a little bit of balance. So can you bring your feet either close together if you love balance, or a little bit of distance, up to hip distance wide, if balance is not necessarily your thing or we're yet to find out today, okay? Hands at your sides. As you inhale, arms swing out wide. Lift your heels, roll the weight forward, find the balls of your feet. As you exhale, release your hands back to the floor as your heels meet the mat. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. This time as you lift on the inhale, we're going to stay a couple of breaths. Hang out. Embrace your wobbles if you have them. If you lose your balance, just take your time coming back up. Maybe not taking the heels quite as high if it's really challenging for you. On the exhale, hands come back to your sides as the heels reach back into the mat. Settle in. Take a breath. Sun salutations are next. Feet at hip distance, hands at your sides. Sun A, here it goes. Sweep the arms on an inhale. Reach high through the fingertips. As you exhale, lower slowly as breath releases, forward fold. Inhale, halfway rise. Find a plank pose. Either knees up or knees down if that's more your thing. Wrists and shoulders should not be compromised, so knees to the mat means no shame. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, slowly release to the mat. When the chest arrives, turn the feet over. Inhale, lift, cobra pose. Exhale, press back onto knees. First time, curl the toes under, hips into the air, downward facing dog. Couple of breaths. Next, inhale, bend the knees, look up. Exhale, find your way to the top of the mat. That's a forward fold. Uttanasana in the old language. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, lower. Rise with the inhale. Meet your fingertips and present them back to your heart. Let's do it again. Inhale, sweep the arms. Lower with the breath. Rise halfway. Find a stable plank pose, whatever that means for you. Claw into your fingertips just a little bit, look forward. Next exhale, elbows bend back as you lower to the mat. Inhale, rise cobra or upward dog if you're ready and your arms want to straighten, and then downward dog on the exhale. Have some breaths. Bend the knees as you inhale. Exhale, launch yourself forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, lower. All the way to standing inhale. Maybe a little back bend this time, and forward fold, exhale. Not forward fold, hands heart center on the exhale. We should do one more round, I think. Sweep the arms. Release. Lift. Plank. Prepare an inhale in plank. Use the exhale to lower. Inhale, cobra or upward dog. Exhale, downward dog. Next, inhale, bend the knees. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway rise. Bow. And lift. All right, bring your feet close together. We'll do some sun salutation, be just a round. So the inside edges of the thighs can be touching, hands at your sides. As you inhale, would you let your arms come forward and into the air? Find that length again. Keep the length of the upper body, but bend the knees, sink the hips as you exhale. Find a chair pose. Stay here for a breath in chair. And then exhale into a forward fold. Halfway rise. The rest goes plank pose, chaturanga, upward dog, and downward dog. On the in-breath, lift your right leg into the air. And then bend the knee as you exhale. Foot comes to hand is the way we do it here. And then swing the left heel to the floor. Press back through the outside edge of your left leg. Now as you inhale, let the arms rise forward and up. Lift the chest, reach through the fingers. Find warrior one. Take your arms out wide to the sides. Press the chest forward just a little bit. Pull the shoulder blades together, and those aren't ankles, those are wrists. Pull the wrists back. Good, stay here 2 breaths. And then use an out breath to return hands to the mat, send the foot away, and flow it through. Lift the left leg when you're inhaling. Bring the left foot forward as you exhale. Swing the right heel to earth. Find your foundation by pressing through the outside of the back foot. And then inhale, rise with the breath. Let's do something different. Take your hands behind, interlace your fingers. Send your knuckles downward as you press your chest forward, lift your chin. Exhale, lower down just about halfway again. Keep that length through the back body. Keep lifting through the crown of your head. Take 2 more breaths. And then on the exhale, hands to the mat, float away. From down dog, you can take a couple of breaths in place, or if you don't like it here so much, release your knees to the mat, find a child's pose. Take a couple of breaths. On an inhale, lift the heels, look up. On an exhale, find a forward fold. Halfway rise, lower down. Chair pose. Take a breath. And then use an exhale to press into the mat, straighten the legs, lower your hands to your sides. And settle into the soles of your feet. Once again, noticing, how does your energy feel? What is your experience of being in your body right now? All right, let's do some more balance. I can just sense that you want it, so here it is. We're going to settle into the right foot first, hands on hips. Lift the left heel. Swing the left knee out to the side. So this is first stage of tree pose. If you want to go a little farther, you can start to slide the foot up the inside of the thigh and find a comfortable perch wherever that may be for you. Arms into the air to complete the posture if this works. Spend a couple of breaths. Now you can stay here in tree, or we'll layer this a little bit. If you want, release your hands back to your hips. Take your left ankle, cross it over the right knee or right thigh, and then begin to lower. Lower, lower, lower. So it's a combination of a figure four and a chair pose. You can even take your left hand to the left knee and press down a little bit. Might get a little hip opening here. You can just stay in tree pose too. You don't have to do any of this if it doesn't work for your particular practice or for your practice today. One more breath. Good. Then go ahead and release that foot to the floor. Shake both of your legs out and we'll start over again on the other side. Hands on hips. Left foot grounds. Right heel lifts. Swing it out to the side. This is a perfectly acceptable tree pose, just tapping in with the toes if this is what your balance provides you. Or you can start to slide the foot up the inside of the opposite leg. Find a perch. Arms into the air if it works for you. Spend a couple of breaths. And to advance this, if you want, return your hands to your hips, cross ankle over knee, and sink. Some people's knees are not going to like this, so if your knee starts screaming at you, don't do it. When knees scream, it's not a time to push through pain. Right hand can come to the right knee, and maybe press that open a little bit further if that helps create a better experience for you. 2 more breaths. Go ahead and release from that. Let your legs take a little shake. And we'll move on. Come back to the top of your mat. Feet at hip distance, hands at your sides. Here we go. Inhale, swing the arms into the air. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway rise. Plank pose. You can either go right to down dog, or if you like the whole vinyasa thing, you can do the chaturangas and the up dogs and the down dogs. All right, from here, raise your right leg into the air. On an exhale, bring that knee into your chin. Release your foot forward. Lower the left knee to the ground. You can, well, let's keep the toes curled under for this first part. You might want to walk your right foot forward a little bit So the idea, alignment-wise, is the ankle is more or less underneath the knee. That's the idea. Okay, bring your right hand to your right knee. Bring your left hand to your right knee. Start to settle the hips down. On your next inhale, slide the hips forward a little bit. You might feel a little stretch in the front of the left calf, top of the or front of the hip. And then as you exhale, slide back. Inhale, reach forward. Exhale, slide back. For us repetitive motion athletes, walkers, runners, swimmers, bikers, this could be a really good stretch into a deep muscle called the psoas, which connects the top and the bottom of the body. Let's do 2 more rounds. Yeah, and then settle. Stay here. You can release your left hand to your side if you want, and then with an in-breath, swing the left arm forward and into the air. Bend the elbow, place your hand on the back of your shoulder, and then lift the left elbow toward the ceiling, almost a little back bendy. Even provide an aid by reaching across with the right hand and allowing that shoulder to lift a little bit more. There's a long line of connective tissue that runs from the base of the knee all the way up to this point of the elbow. And so a stretch along one section of it oftentimes will affect others. 1 more breath here. Good. Release both hands back to the floor. Uncurl the toes. The top of the foot now rests on the floor with your left foot. Take your right foot, walk it out toward the edge of the mat. Left hand comes to rest somewhere under the left shoulder, providing a good base of support. Press into the ground, and then begin to turn to your right. You can take your right hand to the inside of the right knee, and then start to open the knee. Lift the chest. You might be able to roll onto the outside of your right foot, you might not, it doesn't matter. So this is a little bit of a twist. It's a little bit of a hip opener. A couple of breaths here. Sure. Then return the foot back onto the floor. You can place your right hand to the outside of the right foot. Walk your right foot back toward the center line. And then even scooch it a little bit forward, maybe 6 or 8 inches. Good. Now we're coming into a pose that's called Ardha Hanumanasana. In the tradition, it means half monkey pose. Some people say runner's stretch, that works too. So start to slide the hips back. Straighten the right knee. Keep the left hip crease pulling back. Right toes into the air. And settle. A couple of breaths. You need something for padding. Throw something under the left knee to give it a little extra comfort. You can start to lower the chest if that's available to you. Walk the hands forward all the way even with the foot if you can accomplish that. And if not, wherever you can hang out and feel some sensation, that's a good place to be. This is a pose where lots of stuff connects, really from the tips of the toes all the way around the back of the leg, up through the glutes and even into the low back. So if you feel particular sensation, I usually feel it sort of in the belly of my hamstrings. That's where I feel the most sensation, but I'm getting stretched all the way along that line. 3 more breaths here. If you can, slow your exhale down each time you go through a breath cycle. All right, slowly roll back into that right foot, sliding the hips forward. Put both hands on the floor. We're going to turn this into a pigeon pose, so this can be a little awkward for some people. You're going to take the right foot, start to slide it back toward the left knee, and somewhere land the right knee on the floor. And you may want to take the left foot, lift it, and walk it back a bit to create a little more space. When you arrive in a position that works for you, slide or shift your top of your left foot onto the floor. You can stay here in an upright position, or start to walk your hands forward, or lower onto your elbows, or pillow your hands, forehead to hands. This is one of these postures with a lot of layers of muscle involved. And so we tend to stay in it for a little bit longer to allow more and more, deeper and deeper layers to penetrate and experience the stretch. As you continue in this posture, find your exhale growing deeper, longer. Even toward the end of the exhale, you can pull the belly in slightly, almost like you're trying to squeeze the last bit of exhale out of your body. As one of my teachers says, you can't take a complete inhale unless you can take a complete exhale. So here's one way to do that. We'll be here for about 8 more breaths. I should have said it before, but I didn't. You can use a blanket or a pillow. Sometimes putting that either underneath the chest or underneath the hands and arms can be helpful. Last 2 deep exhales. Slowly lift back up. If you've got a prop in the way, move that out of the way for the moment. And then we're going to turn right over onto the right hip. So allow the right hip to sink back onto the ground. Swing the left leg around. Both feet forward now. 2 ways to do this. I'll show you both ways. Good idea. One is to bring your right knee into your chest. Take the ankle, cross it over the top of the left thigh. Both hands can come behind with arms straight. So this is the first version. You can stay here, or if you want to experience a little more sensation in the hip, you can walk your bottom forward a little bit. So that's version 1. Version 2 is actually to bend the elbows, lower them onto the mat, and do it this way. And in this case, you take the left foot, slide it back. Hang out here a couple of breaths. Either way, keep pressing your chest forward, so you don't want to collapse the shoulder girdle and allow your torso to sink into your shoulders. You want to keep that lifted and engaged. A couple more breaths here. Good. Go ahead and release that. Just walk back up onto your hands if you're not there already. Cross your legs, and maybe you roll right over your feet and come onto your hands and knees, or maybe you have to roll around and come up. Either way, we're coming back into table pose. From table, curl the toes under, hips into the air once again, downward facing dog. Yeah, stretch it out in your down dog, pedal your legs. Might want to lift your right leg up into the air, bend the knee, twirl the knee around a little bit, creating some movement, some heat inside of that right hip socket. And then return the foot to the floor. Inhale, bend, nope. Let's try that again. Next inhale, lift the left leg into the air. As you exhale, that foot is going to come forward, and the right knee is going to come to the floor. Good. So knee over ankle is sort of standard fare with this. We'll keep the right toes curled under. Left hand to the left knee. Right hand joins. Good. We'll start to stretch the psoas muscle once again. So as you inhale, let the hips move forward and lower down. Relax your shoulders. As you exhale, slide back. A couple of times. You may start to notice that each side of the body sort of has its own personality. So this might feel very different from side to side. All right, the next time your hips come forward and down, leave them there. You can let your right hand fall to your side. As you inhale, swing the arms forward and into the air. You get a little stretch along that whole chain along the right side. Bend the elbow if you wish, hand past the back. You can reach across for additional pleasure and start to draw the elbow back softly. Whichever position you're in, stay for 3 breaths. Good. Release, return both hands to the ground. You can turn your right foot over now. The top of the foot rests on the floor. Take the left foot, walk it out to the edge. Good. Right hand plants right underneath the right shoulder. Left hand to left knee. As you start to spin the heart open toward the side room or even toward the sky, you can apply a little bit of pressure into that left leg. Maybe rolling onto the outside edge. Take a couple of breaths. All right. Roll back onto that foot fully and start to walk that left foot to the center line. And then when it arrives more or less at the center line, walk it forward a bit. Hands will come to frame the foot. You want to create some distance between the front heel and the back knee. On your next exhale, slide the hips back, straighten the leg a little or a lot, toes into the air. Half monkey pose. So wherever you get sensation here is just perfect. So if you can straighten your leg completely, that's wonderful. If you can pull your toes strongly back toward you, that's wonderful. If you can walk your hands forward, lower your chest toward your thigh, that's wonderful too. Find sensation. And if you happen to be a very flexible person, particularly in forward folds like this, then look for stability. Find places to be stable. So you're not just, I often say, flopping into the pose. Take a few more breaths here. Keep that right hip crease drawing back just a little bit. All right, roll back onto the sole of your left foot. Walk your hands forward a little bit and plant them. You're going to start to slide the left foot back and across over to the right side, landing the left knee on the floor. This is pigeon pose once again. So knowing that the left side and the right side are not going to be the same, notice how it feels on this side to be in pigeon. And then you can start to lower forearms to the floor. If you have pillows, blankets, or anything else that makes you comfortable in this posture, or more comfortable at least, go ahead and apply them. Some people like to put something underneath, in this case the left hip, to support it a little bit. We would use blocks in a yoga studio. If you have a block handy, or even layers of pillows or blankets might work. We're going to spend some time here. So find your breath. Leave your thoughts behind. And focus solely on lengthening exhale. Each out breath getting a little bit longer. As it does, it positively activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest portion of the nervous system. The longer, the fuller the exhale, the greater the relaxation factor. Two more breaths here. As you press into your forearms, into your hands, let the chest rise. And then just slide the left hip off to the side till it meets the mat. Bring the feet around. Bend both knees. We'll do the same thing. So left knee comes in toward the chest. You can reach it across. Settle it in on the top of the thigh. And either use long arms and creep your bottom up, or use forearms and creep your foot back. Couple of breaths. This may feel like a really easy stretch after doing the much more intense pigeon pose. But just because it's easier doesn't mean it isn't effective. In fact, going from a more intense posture to a simpler version with the same shape is sometimes really great for restoration. Okay, release your foot to the floor. And then come on down onto your back. Bring your knees into your chest. Take your hands behind your knees or thighs and let your feet, your ankles relax. All right, settling your back body into the floor. On the inhale, let the heels rise, pull the toes toward you as the legs lengthen. And as you exhale, gently bend the knees back into the chest. Relax the feet. Do that 3 more times. Inhale, lift. Lower on the out breath. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Good. Grab onto the shins. Draw them in toward your chest. You might pull one closer and then the other. All right. And then let your feet fall to the floor gently and walk your feet out to the edges of the mat. You can take your arms out wide for this one. We're doing a little twist or revolved pose, as we call it in the yoga world. Knees knock toward each other. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, let both knees fall over to the left side. You can turn your head over your right shoulder if that works for your neck. And then inhale, coming back to the center. Nose points to the ceiling, as do the kneecaps. Exhale, knees to the right, head to the left. Inhale, come back to the middle. We'll do one more time, flowing each side. Be slow, be deliberate, and be in concert with your breath. All right, coming back to center. Let's go over to the left side one more time and stay there for a couple of breaths. If it's helpful in this position to encourage a little bit deeper twist, you can take the left ankle, cross over the outside of the right knee or thigh. If you have bound that right leg, release the foot back to the floor. Bring your knees to center. And exhale into a twist to the right. Cross the ankle if that's helpful. All right, release that foot, bring your knees back up to center. Last thing we need to do, happy baby pose. Lift your knees toward your chest. Separate the knees, reach through with 2 fingers, find the big toes or grab onto the inside or outside of each foot, and then send your heels toward the ceiling. Relax your, knees toward the floor. Shift a couple of times from side to side. Play with it a little bit. And then when you're ready, bring the heels together. Release your feet. Let your feet fall gently to the floor. And then stretch your legs out long. Bring your hands to rest on your belly. Soften or close your eyes. Relax your feet, relax your legs, relax your hips. Allow your breath to fall into its natural rhythm. Soften the front body from the fronts of the shoulders through the chest, through the mid, the low belly, all the way into the deep abdominal cavity. Find softness. Slowly, progressively begin to deepen the breath into your hands. As you do, you might appreciate the magic of the breath. For it and it alone offers life, according to the yoga tradition. You might move your head from side to side once or twice. And then begin to slide one foot back toward you as you bend the knee. The fullness of the sole is on the floor. Do the same with the other foot. And then roll onto one side and take a few breaths of transition. Take your time working your way up into a seated position. Let your eyes be soft or closed. And as you arrive, just as we did at the beginning of class, notice your foundation, your sitting bones. And rising off of that foundation, feel the length of your spine reaching through the center of your body. Reaching through the neck, extending through the crown of your head. And one last time, be present with whatever energetic sensations are evident to you. And with that, please bring your hands together at heart center. In keeping with the tradition of yoga, we end with the saying Namaste, or the light that is within me honors that which is within you. So, Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again sometime, and maybe someday even in person. Have a good day.